Welcome back to the Fox Files. This is chapter 17. You are still with me at 17. You are serious, and that is good. So have your pencil and your paper ready. You'll get lots of verses through here to check on yourself. We will be looking at Daniel's dream. And this is my opinion. My tilt on it could be totally different. That's up to you. The establishment and the swamp will have their own tilt on this. They won't like you to dig things up that enlighten you, remember. They've gone to a great deal of trouble to bury everything so you're not spooked. But we're in Daniel chapter 7, and he explains much in this dream, and the dream had him a little bit confused, and he asked for it to be explained to him. Now, the swamp that's been trying to cover things up, they know they're playing for keeps, remember? Solomon was onto that in Psalms 110. So you can have a look at Psalms, verses 5 and 6 in Psalms 110 tells you why they know they're playing for keeps, and also in Enoch chapter 90 verse 22. No mistaking what they're saying there. Now, we're in Daniel chapter 7. Remember the sevens? Remember the apocalypse of weeks in the book of Enoch. The apocalypse of weeks talking about, that was chapter 93, verse 9 in the apocalypse of weeks. They say that you will get instruction in sevenfold. And as I said before, the book of Revelation has got sevens all through it. And here we are in Daniel chapter 7. Now, Daniel explains in chapter 7 that he had a dream. Dreams are very interesting things at times. If you read an Enoch dream in Enoch chapter 83, you'll see a cosmic collision scene there. That's just a little bit off to the side. Now we'll go back to chapter 7 in Daniel, and we will have a look at this dream. Now Daniel's seen a lion, these beasts, and the first of these four beasts, one was a lion, and this lion had eagle's wings that were plucked off it. And then it stands like a man. So look for a crest somewhere, and you might just find a lion standing on its back legs. It reminds me a little bit of England losing America when it's had the eagle's wings plucked from it. Then if we go to the next beast he's seen, it was a bear raised up on one side with three ribs in its mouth. Now this bear reminds me of the Bolsheviks and a divided Russia standing on two legs with three countries tore about as ribs in its mouth. This is just my opinion. You might be seeing something else. You can read that in verse 5. You can read about the lion and the eagle's wings being plucked off it in verse 4. We're in chapter 7 of Daniel. Then we go on to verse 6, and we have a leopard with four bird-like wings. I believe that is the Nazis and Germany. That's my belief. But we have the lion losing the eagle's wings. We have the bear divided. We have this leopard with four bird wings. I think the swastika represented a symbol of four wings as well. Then in 7, here we are in verse 7, here's our sevens, we have this different beast, a terrible beast with iron teeth and brass nails. But the jackpot here is the 10 horns. Remember the 10 horns? These 10 horns that I suggested will be 10 billionaires. These boundaryless kings. Well, here they are in Daniel. They're in verse 7 of chapter 7, getting the sevens together. Now they are the same 10 horns that's mentioned in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Remember, verse 2 talks about this bear giving its might to the dragon and the body of a leopard and the voice of the lion. It's the same show. Then what happens is Daniel is confused about this dream, and in his dream he confronts all these elders, all these in this throne room. And now this throne room is spoken about in Revelation chapter 4. So you can go in there and find 24 elders sitting on chairs. Now he goes, God is here himself with these elders in verse 9. And he asks him he asks one of them, what is this about? I can't make sense of this dream. And they tell him that they are kingdoms. In verse 12, they say some of these kingdoms are has-been kingdoms down the track. This is way down the track. They are kingdoms that lose their kingdoms. And then there is this last kingdom with the 10 horns and another little pompous horn coming up amongst them. That's in verse 20. So this happens later. This is when the Messiah is knocking on the door, and that's why they're going for total control. I believe all these kingdoms have taken place in that last week, in the Apocalypse of Weeks. As I said, I believe it's the British Empire, the Bolsheviks, the Nazis, and then the final one. So 3 of them wind up with no kingdoms later. That is how come they wind up has-been kingdoms. At the Messianic time, their kingdoms don't exist. When this final kingdom takes over, it dissolves all those kingdoms. Now this little horn subdues 3 of the 10 horns. So 3 of them don't like doing what they're told, I imagine, and they have to be tamed and gotten rid of or stood over or taking charge of them. So you can read that in verse 24 of chapter 7. Now in verse 25 of chapter 7, this pompous little horn that moves his way to the top in this final dreadful empire that uses iron teeth and brass nails to trample the world. In verse 25 it tells us he does not like the godly people, and he changes the times and the laws. He takes full control. I imagine the cashless digital system is part of that, and I find it a match for chapter 13 of Revelation. They're going on about him changing things and can't buy or sell without the mark, the 10 horns, all that's there in this. Verse 25, he speaks pompous words and he gets away with it for times, time, and half a time. So that's 3.5 years. Revelation chapter 13 verse 5 says 42 months. Revelation chapter 11 says 1260 days. They're talking about the consummation, the conclusion of all this. This is the final show. That is Daniel's dream. So we have that lion losing its eagle's wings. We have that bear up on one side. We have that panther with the bird's wings. Then we have that final empire during the reign of the Antichrist. He sounds rather pompous though, doesn't he? But the good guys win. The Messiah is coming, remember? And this is something that is bothering them. Now you can't go using violence or anything like that. That's not going to work. And be aware of betrayal. There are going to be a lot of people trained to report people. Remember, Mark said you're outnumbered 2-1, 5-3 is the best you can hope for. Now you can read about that leading into captivity and living by the sword. You can read about that in chapter 13 of Revelation in verse 10, and it tells you not to go down that road. So you have to use the patience and wisdom of the saints. You have to outsmart this, and you will get your information off each other, and you will also sense who is, let's say, compatible with your ideologies. You will sense that easily. So, we have linked up Daniel chapter 7's dream with Revelation, given you some verses to go after. I hope you get something out of this. And remember to write things down and do your study, and you will come up with your answers. Okay, we will move on to the next chapter. Thank you.